Single Family Design Board. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address any item that is not on today's agenda? Seeing no one, Chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for approval of the minutes of the October 19th meeting, 2015. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's go through those items. Let's see, item number 1, 1056 Cliff Drive. Any corrections, comments? Item number 2, 1425 Mission Ridge Road. Corrections, comments? Item number 3, 1542 Cliff Drive. Corrections or comments? Item number 4, 1177 Los Alturas Road. Corrections or comments? Item number 5, 302 East Calle Lorales. Comments or corrections on 406 North Ontario Road? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Ng, any other issues with that agenda? No?
No.
Okay. Any other further comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I have not had a chance to really look this up, so it's more of a question, but it's regarding, in reference to item number 2.
1425 Mission Ridge?
Yes, but
Yes.
not really specifically to that project, but rather to projects that are over 100% of the FAR. And I know somewhere in our guidelines there's something about there needs to be a majority or something like that. Do you know anything about that? Because there were only 5 of us that were here, and it was a 4-to-1 vote.
Yeah, in certain conditions, that is a requirement. Mr. Ng, could you remind us of what that rule is, please? Not I have it. Take me a second to look it up.
Yeah, it was item number 2. This is a...
No, for this project, it's a guideline.
This is a guideline.
Only.
This is not a required, what is it, 8,500 square feet or something?
15 lots that are smaller than 15,000 square feet.
15,000
Yeah.
square feet, right.
Okay, so that wouldn't
So
really
doesn't apply to
apply
here.
in
No,
this case.
correct.
Okay, well, I wanted to clear that up anyway. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Just for the record, I did review the entire meeting in detail on video, but I will be not voting on this because I was not in attendance. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions, 1. Nays?
Wasn't here.
And you have an abstention. Okay. So 2 abstentions. Okay.
Did you choose a first and secondary?
Yes, I think we had a first and second. Who first and seconded?
I think Bernie seconded it.
Bernie seconded?
Or did you?
I either first or seconded.
She first did, I seconded.
Okay, so Bernie, okay, that happened already. Okay, let's go to consent agenda for October 26th. Mr. Ng.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Consent calendar minutes for Monday, October 26th are as follows. Item A, 100 East Constance Avenue. This project was continued indefinitely to the full board with a comment as noted. And item B, 1645 La Vista de Oceano Drive. This project received project design approval with the NPO findings and is continued indefinitely to consent with comment as noted. Items A through B were reviewed by board members James and Motisha.
No.
I'm sorry, I apologize. James and Miller.
Got the letter right.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Or, excuse me, I need a motion. Sorry.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Let's go to the consent calendar for this morning, November 2nd. Mr. Ng.
Okay, consent calendar minutes for November 2nd. Item A, 333 East Pedregosa Street. This project received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item B, 1721 Gillespie Street. This project received project design approval with the NPO findings and is continued 1 week to consent. And item C, 2001 Stanwood Drive. This project received approval of the review after final with comments as noted. Items A through C were reviewed by board members James and Miller.
Okay. 2001 Stanwood Drive. Okay. Was,
It's not the same Stanwood
it's not the same Stanwood Drive project?
that you're
Okay.
thinking of.
Okay.
I thought it was that too.
Okay.
This address was last reviewed in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw some things that could have really been cleaned up, so I
Okay.
made recommendations. I couldn't, since it was already approved as a design.
Okay.
So,
All right. Any other questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried.
When was it first reviewed? In
2011. Okay.
I never saw it.
All right.
Are we keeping the same first and second? James? and
Oh,
Miller?
yes, I need first and second. For that, we voted on it
Yes.
without a first and
Yes,
second.
well, okay.
Yes, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Moving too fast.
Do the first consent, I'll do the second one as well.
Okay. And then before we go any further, before I forget, can you take a roll call, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Chair Sweeney, Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Board Member Bernstein,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Board Member Motisha,
Here.
Board Member Pierce, and Board Member Woolery.
Okay, thank you. Announcements, Mr. Ing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to let you know that Board Member Woolery will be absent from today's meeting. And also want to mention that item number 1542 Cliff Drive, there was a site visit scheduled today. That project has been withdrawn, and so the site visit was canceled, and we will not be reviewing that project today. We'll begin with item 2, 210 Meigs Road.
Okay. A question, will we ever be reviewing that project?
At this time, we don't have any triggers for design review. We don't have any. The project doesn't trigger any design review we don't have any.
So what happened? It went from us reviewing it to us not reviewing it. So what?
The applicant has opted to reduce the height of the proposal so that it does not require design review, and that's a 17-foot height threshold.
Okay, so it's below the 17-foot threshold.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's not a,
And the project is not in the Hillside Design District.
Okay, and so therefore it will have no further public review. It'll be at a staff level review.
Yes, they will presumably submit to the building department or division for building permit.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then I'll also note that there's a planning commission.
Yes, there is a planning commission. They are reviewing a project at 2321 Edgewater Way. This is a project that the board previously reviewed and continued to planning commission. They have a site visit scheduled for tomorrow morning, and they will have the project at planning commission this Thursday. And Chair Sweeney, I understand that you are planning on,
Yes, I will
representing the board at that
Plan to
meeting.
attend, and I did go out and look. The story polls are up. If anybody's interested, you can go by and look at it. I looked at it yesterday. Okay.
Story
Anything else?
polls are up.
Yes, there were story polls up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have one announcement. I wanted to, this is Jaime Limon, Senior Planner. I wanted to let the board know that we had a discussion at the ABR about conduct of meeting, and it was helpful because we prepared some statistics on how your meetings are run, or the meetings are run for the ABR, and I was going to ask if you thought it was necessary to have that discussion, because they were concerned about the project, the length of discussion for projects, and whether staff was giving enough time for projects. And we did some statistical analysis, and essentially over 70% of the time we get it right, at least for ABR. We haven't done that for SFDB, but I thought that I'd give you the ability to, if you needed that discussion, and see if we need some adjustments. For the most part, I think single-family residential development is pretty consistent. I mean, you have a house and you're trying to understand how to design the features. It's not like trying to deal with a lot of multifamily development or large commercial buildings. But one of the recommendations was to change the agenda to indicate that the presentation of applicants is limited to 1/3 the time allocated for the agenda item. So if you had 40 minutes, you get a third of that. I don't know if you have a problem with presentations, but they thought that the applicants were spending too much time presenting their projects. So I don't know if you want to have a discussion about that. We can schedule that in the future, or
I don't know, what's people's
you
thought on
think
this?
it's fine?
I think it's fine for us.
It's fine.
I think one of the things that we're grappling with is sometimes we move a little too fast, and then we end up with some big gaps.
Right.
We've been finding that lately. But on the other hand, we've had some projects where we have a room full of neighbors, all of whom want to speak, and that takes an enormous amount of time just to get through that, even though the presentation by the applicant may have been relatively short. I don't know. I'm generally of the thought that these are people's private homes. They put a lot of thought and effort into it. We probably need to give them the opportunity to present what they need to present. I don't know, what's everybody else?
Well, I agree with you, and I think in the commercial aspect, though, they usually have these high presentation things. It's kind of a two-pronged approach where they're trying to convince the board, but it's also a political thing as well. Whereas you don't really have that kind of issue with the private homes. It's more of a mom and pop kind of level of, I mean, you get a couple developers, but they don't.
Right. Well, they asked that we include that in their agenda, so I didn't want to I don't like making changes to one board without considering how that affects other boards. They also asked to add some information regarding how a public meeting or the conduct of the public meeting, so people understand how to come forward and how it will process, how the item itself is processed. So I'll be making that change to the ABR agenda. Again, didn't want to preclude not having you have a discussion about that element of your
Well,
agendas.
I'd like to throw in my 2 cents, since I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule anyway, and we're all sitting here, so we have to wait a few more minutes for the next project. So I really appreciate all the flexibility that we are able to give people when they come in, and especially when a lot of neighbors. But I think that when David schedules the 20 minutes or however he does it, maybe there could be a little bit of a broader time frame for the applicants rather than such tight constraints on us to wait around 40 minutes or 30 minutes sometimes between things if something it just seems to me that they could find out, they could watch the television or they could call and see if everything's on schedule. In other words, a wider period for the applicants to
Be here.
to be on.
To be here 30 minutes
Rather
prior to their
than 15. I think we tell them 15
15
minutes
minutes,
now.
that's correct.
I think we tell them 30 minutes. But, part of the problem, Bernie, is that's kind of okay for the applicant or the designer. But the public, particularly where we may have a neighborhood controversy of some sort, they kind of look at that schedule as sacrosanct. It's going to be at 3:15, and I'm going to show up at 3:15, and I'm not going to show up 30 minutes ahead of time. So I don't know how we
What
deal
if
with
we
the
put a
public part.
range or
Well,
something?
historically it's been time specific. I mean, that's just the way we've dealt with it. Now, what Mr. Sweeney is talking about is that there are times where we get in front of the schedule, and what we said is that you can commence 10 minutes prior. That's sort of the standard rule, because we figure your item is going to take longer than 10 minutes, and if some folks come in late, you can still deal with the public comment at that time by either opening or reopening it. The problem is twofold. One is we can't anticipate the amount of public that will be coming for public comment. So that's sort of an exact science. And then secondly, it's a question of whether or not you all take more time than what we usually deal with. We're trying to anticipate things that might involve controversy. So what our premise is that we do not want to have you waiting. We'd rather have applicants wait. And so if we put 40 minutes, 45 minutes on an item and you only take 20 minutes, that's 25 minutes of you waiting for the next item. And so we'd rather have the applicants wait. So they'll find that we do condense items a little bit in order for them to be in waiting and be prepared to present when you are available for the next item. So again, by putting 40 minutes, you'll find that over time you'll be sitting here waiting for applicants, and we've learned that that's not really the best use of your time.
Anyway, I think that's our input. While you're sitting here, and since we have a little more time and the subject has come up kind of in between things, this issue that we've run into with the retaining wall hedge situations that we may see in the future. We saw one that apparently is now going to go away because of a different approach. But it seems to me, I'm anticipating, given the terrain of our city, that we're going to see more of those kind of discussions between owners. Is it appropriate at this point to maybe have staff come in and maybe bring us up to date on, is there any way that we can refer to a staff recommendation, so to speak, when we run into those issues that kind of get us out of having to keep the gloves off between neighbors?
You're speaking specifically of the provision for administrative approvals for our authority. Yeah, there's a way to direct that question to staff. Typically, it's actually the opposite. We're asking you all for a determination on whether or not it is consistent and compatible with the neighborhood. Right. We have to make a decision on that partly based on your opinions. If you support it, then we're likely also to support it in that manner, if that's what you're speaking to.
Right. And what I'm speaking to, and I only talk when I draw. I don't know if they're going to put it on TV, but we've had this discussion even when we put the hedge ordinance together, where we may have a retaining wall, and we may have another property up here with House B and House A, and historically there's been a hedge here. Maybe House B is a little higher, and now under the new ordinance, this distance here has been redefined, and so we've got a lot of this condition all over the city, particularly up on the Riviera. And so, as I understand it, the way the new ordinance is written, there is a limitation to this height to 12 feet. That causes this thing to have to get chopped down, even though historically maybe the two property owners have always gotten along and felt that was appropriate. As I understand it, now to achieve this, if they want to leave it like this, then this requires a modification?
Well, there's two types of processes. One is an agreement between the two property owners that could be made to allow the increase in height of that hedge element.
Even beyond this 12 feet
Yeah,
business?
I think it's allowed to go up to 14 feet.
Okay.
And then the other thing, it is requesting a modification. Anybody who would like to have that type of arrangement would have to go through that modification process.
Okay. So that might be something that we could either provide a question to or direction to staff if we get it in front of us and we see the solution as being that.
Right.
We could say, staff, is it possible that these folks could get a modification, and it would eliminate us having to get into the issue?
I think the appropriate would be to direct the applicant to pursue a modification as a possible solution.
Right.
If it's to achieve the privacy barrier that typically is desired between property owners. You still have the problem with having both property owners agree,
Right.
which is a dilemma because
Exactly, yeah.
One wants a view, one wants privacy. So
Right.
that definitely could be something. But I would caution you to always think of it as it's not a guarantee. Every site is looked upon with the specific conditions of the site. So even if you direct an applicant to pursue it, there may not be an approval basis for that specific condition. There are different parameters that we look at when we look at those.
But it could be one of the tools that we have in our
Sure.
toolkit to
Sure.
work with this situation.
Right, especially if you're citing a specific reason why that's a good solution here. And as you know, this one that was canceled today, it's a very difficult dilemma when you're at that difference in grade. It just begs for some type of barrier
Right,
because people
right.
want to achieve some privacy.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lamone. Okay, Mr. Ng, I think can we proceed to our item number 2? Where are we at, 3:35? So
Yes, we are. I
3 minutes
do
ahead?
see the applicant here. We are running ahead of schedule. So if
are you folks ready to present?
ready.
Or do you need someone else to be here?
told to come at 3:30. Our architect's not here yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get a coffee.
Whatever you prefer.
I see someone walking through the door. No, that's not the person.
I'm just going to make a quick announcement.
Yes, ma'am.
Hasn't been brought to everybody's attention here at the city, but this will be my last meeting.
Oh, my goodness. No.
I have accepted a position elsewhere, and I'm sad to go, but I'm glad that there will be some new changes in my life.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow,
Okay.
congratulations.
We'll miss you. Okay.
You've been doing a fabulous job. We really appreciate
you.
it. And good luck.
Okay, let's take a brief recess then until your architect shows up. Okay, okay, can we come back to order? Okay, let's bring our meeting back to order. This is item number 2, 210 Miggs Road. This is here for comments only. We're going to look at, there's 1, 2, 3 lots to look at. We're going to look at lot number 1 first. They all have the same address. I think we've read this in the record before, but I'll do it again just to make sure. This is a proposal for a new 2,806 square foot, 1-story, single-family residence with an attached 2-car garage. The project includes new landscaping, site walls, and 60 cubic yards of grading, of which 40 cubic yards will be outside of the building footprint. Proposed total of 2,800 square feet, 6 square feet on an 8,640 square foot lot in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone is 84%, excuse me, of the required maximum floor-to-lot area ratio. This project, because Lot 1 is part of a 5-lot subdivision approved under MST 2006-00476. Welcome. If you'd introduce yourselves, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Rich Ridgway. I'm the developer, and with me is Richard Thorne, our architect, and Bruce Blodon's our contractor. He's been on the job for months now and is very familiar with the plan, so I thought he could have some input as well.
Okay, thank you.
And procedurally, so we're just asking for comments. Are we not asking for a conceptual approval, or maybe I'm not understanding?
It says comments here only, but what are we allowed to do or not do?
So today we're able to give this project comments only. There still needs to be some additional information that needs to be provided on the plans to show that you can comply with the Planning Commission resolution requirements. I won't go through all of them here right now, but
I'd be interested to see what they are. And then couldn't we handle that at preliminary and final? We're just trying to get through conceptual.
So what, if I understand you correctly, you were hoping to get preliminary or project design approval, is that correct?
Whatever we're legally entitled to get, we'd like to get.
2 pieces, preliminary or conceptual design approval,
Okay.
which is an appealable action by this board.
Okay.
And then there is final approval, which means completed
Working drawings. Okay.
So I think what Mr. Ng is saying is that there are some things on the drawings that aren't complete, so we're not in a position to be able to give you project design approval
Okay.
today. Correct? Is that what
That is correct.
So we can just give you
Okay.
comments.
Can we discuss which things are incomplete on the information you need?
One thing that stands out is that you have to have HVAC or automatic climate control for the houses, and then you would have to show where the air conditioning units are located. For example, that's
If we have no AC, does that matter?
Well, we're required to have.
you're required to have it.
So I guess my question is, following up on what the developer is saying, is was he notified of what needed to be required prior to having him be eligible to be for preliminary design? Was that conversation ever taken up, or is this,
The first I've heard of needing to show where my air conditioner is.
I've never seen those comments either. Is there?
These are all outlined in the
worked our way
Planning
through that one?
Commission
It seems kind of
resolution.
minor.
It's something that we look at, but you have a development approval, which I'm sure probably, and I've never seen it, has a whole list of things you have to comply with, and so if they're not on the drawings, that makes it difficult for us to give it an approval that requires an appeal. So if someone appeals, and we're doing it based on incomplete information, that will put you in jeopardy at an appeal.
Okay. Is that the only issue? Seems like we could work through where the compressor of the AC is located.
See, there's a requirement for an acoustical summary. Let's see.
So is that a report or a study?
Yeah, it's some sort of report that needs to be submitted to SFDB and also Building and Safety. Exterior walls facing school property shall have a minimum, let's see, STC rating of 50. Roof ceiling assembly shall have minimum STC rating of 50. I mentioned the mechanical ventilation system needs to be shown.
So
I'm going to suggest, what I'm going to suggest is we'll go through and look at it today and give you comments. If we look at it favorably, I think we can say that in our comments, but it will require you mechanically to have to come back in 2 weeks to get an official concept approval. Now, it could be we'll look at it today and say we don't like several things, in which case you're going to come back anyway.
Right.
So it looks like you've got at least 2 visits.
Okay.
In the short case. And I'm going to suggest, just to make life a little easier, let's just put this one drawing on the table for the moment, since we're going to look at lot 1, right?
Yes.
And then we'll bring the other ones back up. So if you could share with us what you're doing on lot 1.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if we can, just before we proceed with the projects, I just want to make clear to the public that this project did get a one-time concept review. This was back in July 27th,
Right.
2015. The board did make some comments on the development. There are 5 lots in this development, and they made comments on the development as a whole. I'll just go ahead and read the motion that was made at that
Yes,
meeting.
please.
So the project was continued indefinitely to the full board with comments, so it's back here today at the full board meeting. The comments are as follows. Number 1, study lowering the FARs for each project through approaches that include reducing the volume of the first and second stories, lowering the plate heights, and reducing the roof pitches. Number 2, the board appreciates the beach-oriented style of the architecture and how it fits in with the neighborhood. Number 3, show the required open yards on the plans, and that's been done. Number 4, provide site sections. I believe that's on the plans as well. And number 5, incorporate more variety in the use of architectural details among the different homes. The action was unanimous. Pierce made the motion. Motisha seconded, 7-0-0.
Okay, thank you. So with that in mind, if you could share with us how you've perhaps addressed some of those comments.
Okay. Lot number 1 really wasn't a concern as far as FARs at the time because we were below your 85%, which was a goal. But we did have higher roof pitches. We've brought those pitches down.
Okay.
We've shown the yard areas.
Anything else really to talk about?
Tim,
Lot number
why
one?
don't you show the elevations where the roof pitches have been lowered? That would be helpful.
Just go back one more.
Do we have a before and after?
I've got one.
so your roof pitches now what?
Roof pitches now are basically, there's a break pitch in the roof line, but you've got this pitch here, and then you got that one there.
So
which is
3 and 12,
and 6.
and 6 and 12.
Correct.
So
this is the main body forms are 6, and then
so
it
that's
drops.
what, 6 and 12.
Yeah, then it drops to 3 as this roof breaks and slopes back over the top
So
of the
that's the
garage.
3 and 12.
You got it.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay, and the plate heights are at 9 feet?
Yes.
And because this site's dropping, that gets
That's
12
why you get
feet
the 12 at that end. That's
at
right.
that end, and that's over what, the living room?
That's the garage and a front bedroom. With that.
So that relates to the site plan. So if I'm looking at that, oh, it's here. Okay,
Yeah,
so
this-
this gets to be 12, these are at 9.
Yeah, it's
plate
really,
heights.
yeah, it's really just this corner because this grade is held high and then it comes over and there's some step downs here
Okay.
when you look at the site and then the driveway comes in. This is sloped to get drainage out and there's a break at this location.
Okay. And then I think at one point you had some color palette indication of where these things were headed. Do you still have that?
Well, I didn't bring the color board with because we thought we weren't at that stage, so.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Okay.
With
You might put that on your list because that'll be something that we have to have for
next
concept
time.
approval.
For concept?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Color.
Basically,
Okay.
concept approval is the action you're looking for because that allows you then to proceed to working drawings. And so typically at concept, we want some idea of what the colors are because if we
Okay.
want some changes, we can, generally what happens, it won't hold you up, but we might say, look, we prefer you to study green and versus pink or whatever.
Okay.
And then come back with a corrected color board. So we'll want some idea of where that's going. And then going back to the site plan, I know that you presented
You can actually
detailed.
see the site plan in detail back in the back.
Oh, okay.
There's another sheet that gives how the calculations were done for slopes
Oh,
as
okay.
well as
There's
the
what
site.
there's what I was
This is
looking
the
for.
area defining and how the calculations work for the
Open yard
open
there.
space, the fact that the retaining wall is less than 3 feet, so we can count it to the back, and all that is what goes on there.
Okay, and then as I recall, we've given approval for the development landscaping, which is you've brought to us before, and as I understand it, the lot itself will be developed by the buyer.
Correct.
Correct, so that these are actually not landscaped planned at
Yeah,
the moment.
so when you look at, this is the sheet you saw before.
Yes.
Highlighting this lot, and these are the zones that are being done, and the rest of this is not.
Okay.
It's by owner.
And then one question that you may have addressed is, are you putting in fences now, or will the owner put in the fences on this line?
We will put in the fences.
So those
And I think
fences will
they're
go in there.
Picket fence.
And those were picket fences, and did we already bless those at the previous?
I'm not sure if you blessed them. They've been on the drawings, and
Okay.
we'd like to bless them.
Okay,
They're part of the elevation design. You see it when you look at the elevation
Okay.
side.
I was
Yes.
wondering, since we're going to be looking at all 3 of those.
Yes.
And I'm trying to have the public understand how they're oriented, so when they're passing by or walking by,
Right.
how are those, what are they going to see? Where's
This
the
is Miggs
door?
Road.
Okay, where's the front door to that house?
Over here.
Facing
Miggs Road.
Miggs Road.
Right.
And is there
So you walk around this way from the driveway?
Yeah, it's a side entry house.
It's a side
for
entry
basic-
house.
side entry house?
Okay.
That's correct.
But the door, and then what about well, we're going to talk
These
about.
Yeah,
two.
we'll get to
but-
2 and 3 in a
But I
minute.
think just for me to understand the overall impact of the whole, so the door to number 2 is also the same way?
No.
No,
Going
it's
into
the front.
the street.
I think what,
Different ways, okay.
Bernie, what may help you is this little sketch right here. Okay, it shows you, this is Miggs Road out here. It's not on the, doesn't say, but that's, well, there's Miggs Road. Okay. So this is the sidewalk out here. And is this,
Look at that side elevation. It
no, let
shows
me go
the
back to
front-
that, but let me get Bernie. Are these drawn to any scale?
No.
Okay. Just guessing here. You know, there's a person. So from the road that goes in off of Miggs Road, this is Miggs Road coming this way, coming in this way. This is the first house you see. You're not going to see the front door here because you're going to see it off of Miggs Road. This house, you're going to see the front door right here.
Correct.
And that house, you're going to see the front door right there. Okay, and then it comes up to the end of the cul-de-sac. Okay.
This house is this house.
This house is that house.
Right.
This house is that house.
And where's this front door?
Right here.
Right.
So it's in here.
So it's.
Yeah, we'll see that on the plan in a few minutes. So the
Okay.
front doors for these houses face into this cul-de-sac. The front door for this house faces Miggs Road. Okay, and I think the architect has got a
Yeah, I was
sketch.
pointing to the side. This is the side that you see from Meg's, that's the front door,
That's
Okay,
number
and it's
one.
tucked back into a porch.
under a porch.
Okay,
Okay.
and the fence that we're talking, that I was just quizzing about, is this one. Am I correct, or is
Yes.
that?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, so it's an open fence. It's not a closed fence, and it's only
Shorty.
42 inches high,
3 feet,
or
actually.
3 feet, 36 inches high.
And
So
there's a sidewalk in front of the fence
it drops
Got a
down
lower
below that.
elevation on Meeks Road.
below that.
Yeah, see, you drop down dramatically. Where is it?
If you look at the elevation, you could see
Yeah,
that
right here.
line.
See right there?
Yeah.
There's retaining wall right on the walkway on Miggs Road. The public walkway is here. There's a retaining wall here. That's this retaining wall. And then there's some landscaping up to the property fence, which is here, which is what's on that sketch.
So it's elevated. People that are walking by are below.
Yes,
a
they're going to be
few feet
looking up.
below.
They're going to be
I
looking
get
up.
it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Since we kind of just rolled into, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I seem to recall in our last meeting that we had discussed this parkway planting and had agreed that we weren't going to encourage parkway planting. Can you say something to that, David? Do we have a comment regarding that?
I think in the last review, the board agreed to approve paving. Sorry. At the last review, the board agreed to just have paving because there was a question of who would maintain that landscaping. That was my recollection.
I kind of thought it was at the crosswalk, and it wasn't this whole thing.
I can shed some light.
That was, we did agree that paving would be there, but I also thought that we made a decision about whether or not to put to put planting in this parkway because it would require some irrigation.
Right.
And being that Washington School is next door.
But I think that's part of the
Let's have the
stormwater.
applicant maybe address what it.
This has been a bit of a ping pong ball issue because when we initially approached the city staff, we met with Public Works, Transportation, Planning, is there any other entity? I can't remember. But we asked for, could we just have a 7-foot wide sidewalk like the entire neighborhood, up and down the street, both sides? And the answer was yes. So we proceeded along, drew our civil engineering plans that way, submitted, and got kicked back by Creeks. And the Creeks department said, you must filter what falls on the sidewalk. You cannot have any sidewalks. Therefore, back to a planter to meet Creeks. There's been some fights between departments, some pretty good fights between the departments, but I think Creeks is winning out. And we're back to, this is what we're being forced to do. Honestly, we'd prefer to have a sidewalk 7 feet wide like the entire rest of the neighborhood, both sides.
Okay.
But it's not going down that way.
So, and you'll be coming back to us. Now, today, the applicant is, because of the way these things are set up, we don't get to discuss this piece today because it's not on the agenda. Okay, they're going to come back to us at another point with a design for what's going to happen in this parkway, per your discussion with Creeks and everybody else. So today, our comments are confined only to the design of this house. So that's what our agenda item is. So I think what will be helpful if you can just all make some mental notes or notes to yourself that we'll be seeing this piece again, that we'll see. I think we get to see this for final approval at some point.
But, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I understand, but I do still have a question about the number one. I know we're talking about number one. I just was wondering if the developer could explain why the different levels. Is that something to do with the sidewalk issue, or
What,
why?
the different levels? Because it's the way the site's graded.
I know, but it's not graded that much.
Bernie, if you went out there before this project started, the site goes like that. The only way you can build these houses and get any flat, you have to be able to do that. You have to terrace them. That's why they're done this way.
There was also a planning commission requirement to terrace the lots.
As they moved up towards Washington School. There's just no way to build on this site without being able to do that.
The lots. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And lots 1 and 5 were conditioned to be lowered as much as possible.
Right,
So
exactly.
We did
because of the way that grade started out.
Right.
And I only know this site a little bit because for a couple of years I worked for the district and planning what ultimately became a plan that was done by another architect, but we did some initial master planning on this whole lot, and so I became quite familiar with this property.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes.
The landscaping that you're doing in this area, are you going to have a CC&Rs where it's going to be maintained by one single?
You know, it's a standard subdivision. There are no...
Because, that would be great if you could, because if you did that, then you can include this going on here.
Right. What's the planning commission approval? Does it require maintenance?
No, it's 5 standard single-family homes.
So there is no planning commission requirement.
That's too bad, because that would really help if they had a single garden service take care of, and they're required to maintain it, so the consistency and the continuity is maintained.
But that's out of our purview and out of the planning commission's purview. And that would have typically been a planning commission. When you do these kind of developments, planning commission puts those kind of criteria.
But the thing is, if Creeks is telling them, in an ideal world to landscape that, you know what's going to happen.
Right. Well, that's what we're dealing with.
It is.
So we'll see that when it comes back to us. So any further questions and comments, or questions rather, on the house itself on Lot 1? Okay. So the applicant's here for some directions so that when they do come back, they can achieve, from their point of view, preferably concept design approval. So comments?
You did lower the FARs? Or you
We
didn't have
didn't,
to?
because
Not on
that
this
one
house.
already
Not on this one.
was
But
a
you made,
reasonable square
Did
footage.
we put a recommendation that the rooms should be smaller?
No, that was, I think, an overall comment to the rest of the project. The Lot 1 and Lot 5 house, we didn't change because you guys at the time didn't have a issue with the FARs. It was really a roof pitch issue, and we dropped our roof
And it was
pitches.
the bulk. Okay. All right.
So
was a
I
question.
think, in my view, they've addressed what we asked them to look at for Lot 1.
How about the plate height?
And I think they didn't reduce the plate height, but they reduced the roof pitch, so it's kind of up to your decision-making thinking process. Is that enough?
What is the plate height?
9 feet.
9 feet on this single-story house.
I got to bring it up one more. I just have to ask this one more question. Can you create in the CC&Rs that the landscaping is all maintained, or is that you cannot even do that?
We don't have CC&Rs.
You're not allowed CC&Rs.
You're not even allowed CC&Rs.
No, the city of Santa Barbara doesn't recognize CC&Rs. That's where we run into all kinds of problems.
If it were a planned unit development.
Yeah, planned unit development, but these
being
are not planned unit
just
developments.
5 individual lots, a standard subdivision.
that's the last of my
5
question.
single-family
Yes.
separate homes
Yes.
that
It's
aren't
just-
really connected.
But
with
they are
an
really. But they actually
association.
are, especially.
It's just like our On Terre Road project
Yeah.
with those 4 houses or 5 or whatever they were.
And I just have to say, when Creeks and these other departments start requiring all these Tier 3, where you have an overall envelope in terms of how the water is going to be maintained, it kind of negates any of that when you have each independent property owner deciding how they actually want their landscaping. Because we could do whatever you want, and then a year or two from now, they can tear it all out when the mother-in-law comes to visit to put her roses in, and there's no way to stop it. And anyway.
Well, unfortunately, we have to do a lot of mechanical components of it for Creeks.
Yeah, you do, but there's no way of really maintaining it.
Well, I think for number 1, they're on the right track, and I think it meets our guidelines. I think it fits the neighborhood. It's okay, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, other comments? I think I tend to agree. I appreciate the fact that you've lowered those roof pitches. I think that really helps. and I'm beginning to see some differential in the architectural approach that we asked for between all 5 houses. So I think, in my view, we're kind of there.
For number one, we're talking
At least,
about.
yes, for number one. So I'll certainly be interested in colors and materials, but I think that certainly this is, at least lot number one could come back, in my view, for concept review approval. So without further comments, the chair will look for a motion on lot one. Motion with comments only. Comments only.
Yeah, I think the board moves to continue the project for 2 weeks so that the applicant can come back to us with the required drawings and color board and other items that maybe other board members want to see in order to submit a full package. The board does find that number one does meet the guidelines in terms of consistency and appearance. It meets compatibility guidelines. It appears to have quality materials, which we'll be looking at when you bring us some samples and colors. And that's my motion.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Is there a
Mr.
second
Chair,
motion? Yes.
before we move any further, we skipped public comment, and I apologize.
Oh,
I did
I'm
not
sorry.
catch that.
We'll time out on the motion on the floor. We don't have a second yet. So do we have public comment? We have a speaker, Marie Lasala?
She's
Yes,
right
hi.
here.
If you could come forward, please. This is a public meeting and it's being recorded, so if I could have you give her one of these chairs. You need to speak into this microphone, please. Sorry, we missed the public comment. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hello, my name is Marie Lasala, and I'm one of the adjacent neighbors. I just have a brief comment. I was here for the last meeting, and I appreciated the board's comments, and I was happy to see the changes for Lot 1, but I did have some concerns that the FAR ratios for the lots 2 and 3 were still above the FAR 85% recommended number. And that's the only comment that I wanted to raise today.
Okay, thank you. Now, we will have a public comment for each one of these. So that's Lot 1. We're going to review Lot 2. That'll have a public comment. Lot 3 will have public comment. So if you wish to address those again in a few minutes, you're certainly welcome to. Okay?
But technically, we've all heard what she said,
Yeah,
and we
exactly.
know 2 and 3, and we're going to be looking at those, and we appreciate you coming.
Okay.
Just trying to be efficient.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Let's close public comment. No one else comes forward.
Can I ask a quick procedural question?
Yes.
So we're coming back in 2 weeks for conceptual, or
Yes.
could it be a conceptual / preliminary?
Well, no, preliminary and concept are the same thing.
Okay.
Together.
That's the official
Okay.
point, which we say, look, we like the general approach, the design, the general colors, etc. Your design is acceptable enough that we give you approval to proceed to working drawings. So that's what's going to happen.
If I could ask a question, they address some issues of conditions that need to be a part of these drawings when we come back.
Yes.
When it says, for instance, in the report, the acoustical report, does that require, you're requiring us to have an acoustical report that shows each and every window size and type analyzed to make sure that it conforms to the requirements?
Unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer that right now. I will check in with the case planner on this project and give you a more detailed and definitive answer.
Okay, because that was the reason none of that ever
It
got
probably
added,
would
'cause
behoove you to
we
go
didn't
meet
know.
with staff
Yeah.
as early as possible to get that sorted out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right. That is a motion on the floor. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a first and second to the motion. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a planner, though, right, that's helping you
Yes,
through
Allison.
all these hoops. So
Allison,
that's
yes.
Allison.
I wasn't sure when it asked for us to prove that our walls and our roof structures met the insulation requirements and soundproof stuff, that was something that was discussed here. I thought that was part of our final package of
building package.
Yeah,
Exactly,
acoustical.
but under the process, those have to be in place in order for us to give an official approval, because that's an appealable approval. So as I said before, if you don't have that in play, that would put you in jeopardy should somebody try to appeal a decision that wasn't properly put together.
Pre-working drawings somehow show you that our wall insulation is...
And the big issue is if there is an outside condenser, we're interested in where it's located because of noise factors, sightline factors, et cetera, to the neighbors. So we've had some issues where a condenser has been proposed to put in a side yard or within the open area, and then we find out, oh, well, you know, the neighbor's looking right down on that air condenser. So that's not a good place. Let's move it somewhere else. So that's why we want to see that at concept.
Okay.
Okay.
And I haven't put in air conditioning in any homes in Santa Barbara. This is on the beach, but I think it's because if there were operable windows facing Washington School, then because they're not operable, that now we need AC?
Yeah, and it was a condition of approval.
Yeah, so that's, we're interested in where it's located and what it looks like, and can you see it or can you hear it? Okay. All right. Anything else? So you're going to call for the question. You get to, that's when you ask. Say, can I call for the question?
Can I call for the question?
You can call for the question. Question's been called, so we need to go to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, unanimously passed. Okay, so lot number 1 is ready to go. There, let's go to lot number 2. Okay, this is lot 2. If you could proceed through lot 2 and show us how you address some of our concerns.
Lot number 2, as well as lot number 3, because they were the same base floor plan, were done, but the elevation and the roof elements have changed. So there was a change in the floor plan which reduced the FAR square footage.
And really the volume.
And also volume, and I don't know if you recall or not, the original floor plan had a central 2-story volume space. That space has been removed, and we now have basically the volume space of the great room starting on the side plate, sloping up and meeting the normal plate of the second floor. So the mass of the building is reduced significantly because of that, because you've got in the roof plan, this whole side starts here at the second floor plate, which is 8 feet, and slopes down at 4 and 12 pitch down to this plate, which is a pitch plate, basically. So that's what's happening from here. It starts here, comes down to here. Before, we were up at the second floor plate here with the roof and starting on the other side. So the rear elevation has changed pretty dramatically as far as the proportion and the bulk, because it now is soft rather than being full 2-story all the way across. And in the process of making that floor plan change, that's where we reduced the square footage, and that also brought down the FAR square footage. And in plan, we removed storage and things that were a part of the original plan that were in here in order to help that FAR number come down. So this all moved forward and moved back a little bit on the lot as well, so it kind of opened up the backyard a touch at the same time.
Okay. Right. Mr. Ng, do we have this is now at 93% FAR?
That's what it was.
It is.
It is now?
It is now. What was it before? Do we know what it was before?
100%.
We were real close to 100 initially, but we're at...
I believe at the last review it was closer to 100, if not 100.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're at 93 now.
Okay.
Is that, David, is that a set of the last review that you're looking at right there?
Yes, it's the concept.
Can I see
sure.
that?
Let's put it on the drawing, on the TV.
I just want to compare. I just want to compare the the floor plans? Well, let's start with the elevations.
Oh, if you start with the elevation, initially we had this and we were springing and running back.
Ooh, yeah.
And now what we're doing is we're starting here and we do have sort of a hip in the front end, and then this roof trails down.
Okay,
So it takes a lot of the bulk out of the building.
If you pull this, whoops, that's all. Pull that one back and pull this forward. So if you're looking, there's what you're seeing now versus what you used to see from the street.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Okay.
Do that again.
So here is what we saw before. Okay? See how high this roof is? We asked them to lower the roof pitch and squeeze down on the FAR. This is what we're looking at today.
We can't see it on the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we see it now? So there is what we're seeing today. That's what we saw before.
So the forward roof part was taken down.
Yeah, they've changed the whole approach to the roof. Okay. See what we have?
Maybe in an attempt to
There was a
take all that
walkway. There was a walkway across the second floor that looked down
It was a
into
bridge-style
the.
house.
Yeah, so that's all been condensed down. And just so everybody understands, let's go back to this sketch here. This is towards Lot 1. This is towards Washington School and Lot 3.
Right.
Okay, so the street is coming up from Miggs Road, which is to this side. Okay.
And one of the reasons for doing this, the side slope also and looking at the site and address what you had addressed at the last meeting was it starts to open up the visual corridors between buildings. Before, it was two-story parallel walls. Now, it's about a little over 1 story here, sloping up, and it's going away from you. So when you look at that, you get an opening between lots that you would never have seen before because we're soft-sided right here.
Right. So if you look at it from what you just said, basically this view window
That's it.
is open there.
That's it.
Versus before, this went straight up.
You got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's gone away. So from the perspective of the folks that live in these units up here, it's opened a bigger view window.
These people look out into their, basically, is it a backyard?
They have a side yard, but primary living is this way and this way. This is some secondary windows out of some secondary space.
So secondary windows look into that really two-story element there.
But they really, with a 3-foot retaining wall and a 5-foot fence, they won't see the house next door. If they're down at an elevation and 6 feet away is an 8-foot fence.
The fence really is the barrier more than the house is.
They don't see the house.
So let me pull Lot 1 back up just so you can see. So Lot 1, that's the side looking at Lot 2.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a kitchen window looking at Lot 2.
Bedroom, bathroom, and a bedroom.
And a bedroom.
And the back bedroom goes
And a
to the
bathroom.
front.
So one window in this back bedroom looks towards Lot 2.
Yes.
All the other windows are facing Miggs Road.
And then there's the property line.
And
its
an
fence.
8-foot fence.
Effectively.
Okay.
All right. Questions? Yes.
So just so I understand, on Lot 2 on the second floor, so when you're walking down the hall, you look over a railing or something down to the...
A peak down, but it's right there.
Yeah, basically you have a railing. It's like a typical balcony would be to the lower space.
So at 93%, I mean, it seems like if there was going to be any reduction in square footage, that would be the area to reduce, right? You could push the stairs back.
This doesn't count to the square footage, to the FAR.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the only, at this point, if you want to reduce that 93% even lower, then you have to start attacking the size of these rooms.
Oh, okay.
Because we need it for circulation, because we narrowed the footprint up to reduce the rear impact, and that makes this hallway, which is a little longer than what we normally would do, but it's there in order to stack the rooms up along the one side.
The only other thing you could play with is reducing the width of the stairs. And that gets you down to 3 feet. And I can tell you, because I did it in my own house, I didn't have the room, I got to 3 feet. And if you try to move a mattress up that staircase, it's a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
So even at 3.5 feet is probably as minimum as you're going to get to try to get a staircase as small as you can. So the only other way you can attack the FAR in this plan, and I've said it many times before, is you have to kind of then suck everything in a little bit.
And I did that in the process. That's part of how we got the FAR down.
Yeah, because you basically start to have to take a foot here and a foot there and whatever to keep all the room functions. You have to start squeezing every square foot to get it.
Or take out a bedroom.
Or take out a whole bedroom.
house.
Right, exactly. There's not a lot of other maneuvers you can play with.
So it was, but was the FAR before?
100%.
100. So now it's 90.
You basically
Three,
got a
yeah.
totally open floor plan.
All right. Other questions?
Yeah, your plate heights of this house?
Plate heights on the second story, 8 feet. Plate heights on the lower floor in the front where there's a 1 foot break in the house.
Okay, now I'm confused here, because if you look, yeah, see, that says 10 feet, and then that says 10 feet. What's,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was describing.
It doesn't scale that way.
No,
It's not scaled correctly.
because it looks much higher than,
No, it scales at 9 feet. That 10 feet is...
That may
What
be
is-
an error.
what is-
Yeah, it should be one. Yeah, it's 8 feet in the back. It should be 9 feet in front. That's an error.
That
That's
should
an
be
error.
9
That should be
feet.
9.
And it's because
Because we have a
stepped
12-inch
down
drop.
into this.
We have a 12-inch drop as we move from the rear of the property to the front of the property that we're taking up inside. So in order to keep it lower than what we had originally, I lowered the front of the house down with it. So we have now a second floor
Step
break as
down.
well as a first floor break.
Right. See what's going on here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we added that break into the house to keep it down as low as
one of the tricks I do when I do these sketches is I put a red line in here to show where the floor line is. So what we've got is a floor line that comes down like that, then pops up and goes back.
so this is 8 feet, and that's 9 feet because it steps down.
Exactly.
And the reason it steps down is because of the topography of the land.
Right,
so you
because
take
of
advantage of
the
it.
grade.
Okay.
Right. We did that in each of the homes. It's even on the 1 story. Has that same kind of a break.
Okay?
Thank you.
Other questions? Any comments? We go to comments?
Oh, here you go. This is good. Right over here.
Okay. Before we continue with comments, I'll open it up for public comment at this point. Anyone else want to address lot number 2? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment and bring it back for final comments from the board. So as in the first project, the board should put together a motion with comments only.
Well, I'll say what I
Go ahead.
think. First of all, we really appreciate you trying to make another shot at it. However, by carefully looking at our guidelines and the lot size, you know, if you come in and start at 100% from the get-go, you're out of, you know, you're just out of what our community is all about. It just doesn't fit. And so now to come back with a reduction of 93%, it's, you know, it doesn't fit the neighborhood. It's too big. It's still way too big.
Okay. Other comments? I'll jump in at this point, and I tend to agree with Bernie. I think there needs to be a little more homework on this one. I think you need to get that thing down closer to 85%. You know, one of the challenges we have, part of the reason this board exists is exactly this problem, and it occurred on the Mesa. The reason the city council decided to have a single-family design review board is exactly these issues, where we had folks trying to squeeze every square footage out of the deal. And it got, at that point, we didn't have FAR as a tool in our toolkit to give us a gauge, and it really got to be a challenge. So that's why we look at that very carefully. And given the fact we have the opportunity with 5 houses being built at the same time, we've got the opportunity to do it right. Sometimes we don't have that circumstance, and we end up, yes, approving something more than 85% because of site conditions and other things that are not under the control of that particular applicant. But fortunately, I think in this case, we do have control. So I'd like to see that FAR and the total square footage come down. I think that the general architectural approach, the scale is appropriate. I think the approach to the roof is a good solution. I think it gets the view corridor, but I think we just need to get these houses down into those 85% marks. Yes.
I'll comment as well and agree that I approve, and I think the board approves of the direction that it's going. But I'd like to see it focus on quality rather than quantity, maybe, and get it down in the 85% range. I could support it in that range.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments? Okay. No other comments? Does someone like to make a motion to give direction to the applicant?
I will make a motion. We move to have him come back in 2 weeks with the following comments. The board appreciates the style of architecture. The board feels that the roof placement and the arrangement is acceptable. The board feels that they would like to see the reduction of the overall square footage to be in the 85% area of the FAR, a little reduction of the square footage. And that's my motion.
Okay, that's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, the chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, so you need to squeeze it down some more.
Okay, may I make a comment?
Yes.
When we were here several months ago, the question was asked, is 85% a hard and fast number?
Nope.
And the comment was, no, it's not. You need to come down some, but we're really focusing on your plate heights, your ridge lines, your roof pitches, and your volume. So we came back, we reduced significantly on our square footage. We got our FARs down, not to 85%, but that at the time was not the goal. Now it's a goal. So throw these plans in the trash, start again. I just wonder, where does 85% come when you have a number that is the goal? And we weren't ever told 85% was a hard and fast number. So we're a little frustrated.
Well, I think that what you're seeing here is you gave it some effort. We appreciate that, but it didn't get down far enough.
But nobody told us 85% is your target. We were told to bring it down some. It's not about your square footage. It's not about your FARs. It's about your volume, about your roof pitches, and your plate heights.
And I think what you're hearing from the board is you didn't get it down far enough.
So my question is, 85%, is that our number? Because I was told last time that was not our number.
I think the motion said in the 85% range. It didn't say 85%. So if you can get it closer to 85.
That doesn't give us very clear direction.
Let me ask a question from a design standpoint. 85% is an arbitrary number, or is it an absolute number?
That was our question last time.
Reason why I'm asking this question is, as a designer, I can, you can design and design and design. I can spend many, many hours redesigning homes to try to get it down to something that is unknown, other than is 85 the absolute?
85% is what a lengthy city process worked on for many, many months before they put this all into play. So that was done by several staff people, volunteers from the community, et cetera, to get to some understanding to the 85%. Now, one could say, yes, that's an arbitrary number. On the other hand, there was a lot of study made on it because of this issue that was run into why this board exists in the first place. Okay? So, yes, one could always make an argument that 85% is arbitrary. But on the other hand, the city of Santa Barbara said, look, we're getting McMansions. People don't like it. We've got to come to some range of understanding.
I might have a good answer for this. I think why we're kind of pushing the 85 in this context, if it was a 2-acre property and it had a lot of open space, we'd be a little more flexible. But under the context of this development, we're feeling a little more comfortable that this can go around the 85% based on the fact that it's in a high-density situation. And I think that's why we're feeling, and that's kind of
wish
what
that would have been made more clear to us the last time we were here, because the comment was very clear that it's not about your FARs. It's about your ridge lines, your plate heights, your volumes. And so I know that you're not supposed to point to examples all over the mesa of other projects that are McMansions, but those McMansions are way beyond 100%. 100% was what we were told is that's what you got to live within. We came in, we were at 85 to 100, and then we were told it's not about your FARs, it's about these other issues. We cut it back down in half. These are not big homes. There's 8 homes just kitty corner to this that are this large, and I don't know if those probably didn't go through this design review board. Yeah.
Let me, if I can, kind of complete my question, because if it's the FAR that's driving it, then that's one tool or one thing, target you got to go for when you're designing. The other is, if it's acceptable, which I thought I was hearing, that the bulk and the scale of the elevation on Lot 2 in the front is okay, but the FAR is no good. That in reality, all I need to do is take this house and move it forward to here. How does that make the neighborhood better?
I think that's the issue you need to be able to demonstrate to us. And what I'm sensing, we didn't get that today.
Okay, I'm just going from the comments I heard about it, is if generally the elevation character, which I thought I heard, was okay, and the front and the way we modified roof is okay, that if I lopped off 10 feet off the back of the house and that met 85% the FAR.
It's a site, but you notice my comment wasn't that. My comment was you need to suck it in on everything. It's not just chopping things off.
So that means that in essence, we need to look at the site with respect to the side yards and say side yards that are given to us by zoning are not really appropriate in these kind of neighborhoods anymore. We have to look at narrower and shorter.
No, it's the issue. The issue is a 13-foot by 10-foot, 11 or 10-foot. Is that a large enough kitchen? Could it be smaller? Could this great room be smaller? It's 14 feet by 30 feet right now. Could that get a little shorter? Could this thing come in like that? Could the master bath up here get a little bit smaller? That's 6.5 feet. Can it come down 6 feet?
So it's all about the FAR number. It's not about the design.
No.
Yes. Because it's
Yeah, that's exactly what
No, yes, you said it well.
It's absolutely not about the design.
Size, scale, and bulk. Okay, so what we're saying, the scale and bulk look pretty good now. It's the size issue now that we're dealing with.
Your design's beautiful.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. Okay, so that was the motion on the floor, and I believe that passed, correct?
More clearly last time, because the direction last time was you got to hit 85%. We would have hit 85%.
Well,
so we're throwing this in the trash and starting again.
it is a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Okay, let's go to lot number 3.
Did we vote?
Is that what I
have
had?
to vote?
I thought we voted. Did we vote? We
Vote?
did.
Okay.
We voted, correct? Yeah, so that's...
Are you involved in
Lot
this
2 is
property?
done.
Oh, okay, you're the planner for it?
Okay, let's go to lot 3. If you want to share with us what you did on lot 3.
The floor plan is the same, and the difference is the way the elevation works. The basic roof line is the same, so the character changing that you see is the front is not a hip, it's a gable form with the porch, but the base roof lines, basically the bulk of the buildings is the same. The height of ridges are the same. That's probably, again, 9 feet.
Yeah, 9 feet.
So that part is basically the same. So the vocabulary in both homes is the same in structure.
Okay, and so in this case, that elevation is looking towards that elevation, which is the one story piece of that component on the previous project. Okay? And the one-story component in this is the part that's facing Washington School.
Right.
And then share with us again what's going on with the windows on the side that's facing Washington School.
They are smaller scale windows that we have to provide as fixed glass. So we're dealing with the non-operable glass issue because of sound. And that was my question about whether we had to provide the calculations and numbers to prove that those work.
Okay. And that's something you'll need to work out with staff to get that sorted out. Okay.
When you say Washington School, do you mean the parking lot?
Yes, parking lot.
Right,
The new
there's a
parking
big
lot.
There's a new
wall.
parking
There's a
lot.
new 8-foot
Right,
wall.
an 8-foot wall,
So
and
anybody
then,
on our first level and anybody in the Washington school will never see each other because there's an 8-foot
That's
wall.
this wall right here, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So Washington School's parking lot is to that side.
okay.
Okay. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Why is it on this one? This looks, quite clear what you're doing. But then here, it says 10 feet and 10 feet. That's just
No, it's the floor level that you're talking about. There's different plate heights involved.
right.
If you're relating to
It's
the
the
back.
same step down.
Your back floor, because there's a step in the floor again.
okay down here.
It grows, yeah, so it grows when you get to the front.
Okay. Now, this one is, this lot number 3, just so we're all clear, is at 89%. And Mr. Ring, do we know what it was previously?
Doesn't really matter because we got a bunch of them.
Should have been 96 with the same floor plan.
So it was 96?
Well, I don't know, but they reduced it to the same
The lot size is a little bigger.
I think the
Yes.
difference.
Unfortunately, I can't confirm, but it was in the upper 90s
Okay.
the last time.
Okay. So it's been dropped to 89%. Okay.
Is that difference in FARs because of the lot size?
Same-
Only
same-
because of the lot
yes.
size. So the square footage of the house is the same.
But that's what FAR is all about. It's a ratio of lot size to floor
Ratio
plan.
lot size to the house.
Yeah. I'm just clarifying.
I believe we're at 88, if it makes a difference to you guys.
Okay. So this is 88, so this 89 is incorrect?
Yeah.
Okay.
But 88 doesn't make it either.
All right, well, we'll
Is that
see in
the
a,
answer?
we'll see in a minute. Let's not jump to conclusions. Comments, please.
Oh, Mr. Chair, it was
Yes.
92%.
92%, okay, thank you. All right.
Down to
And
80.
it went down to 88%, okay. All right, again, before we finish with questions and go to comments, this has to have a public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for comments. Okay. We'll need another motion with direction and comments. Anyone set to make a motion? Seeing no one come forward, the motion, the chair shall make a recommended motion for board members' consideration. That the board appreciates the new approach to the design, that the roof configuration has met the board's request for size or bulk and scale, that the floor heights is indicated with the corrected 9-foot floor height on the front elevation is acceptable, and that the applicant has made an effort to reduce the FAR to 88% from 92%, and given the specific lot size, the board finds that approach acceptable. That's my recommended motion.
I adopt that motion. I will.
Okay, so that's adopted. Is there a second?
Yes, I will second that.
Okay, is there further comment? Hearing no further comment, the chair will call for the question. All in favor?
Can you give us 1 second just to contemplate this?
Yes.
Because it's going pretty fast, so.
Are you ready?
Ready, Ms. Bernstein? Okay.
Yes.
Any further comments? There is a motion on the floor. There is a second. Hearing no further comments, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. So lot 1 and 3 are moving forward. You need a little adjustment on lot 2. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to, can we do that? Oh, we can't do that.
So we are very ahead of schedule.
We're ahead of schedule. So we're going to go to 5:10. The chair will call for recess for 30 minutes. Monday, November 2nd, 2015, Single Family Design Board. We're at item number 5, 1212 San Miguel Avenue. This is a new item. So I'll read into the record the project description. It's a proposal for a 399 square foot second story addition and a 92 square foot balcony to an existing 812 square foot one story single family residence with a detached 241 square foot one car garage in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The proposed total of 1,452 square foot is 57% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. Staff hearing officer reviews a request for alterations to covered entry, window and doors in the required front setback and to allow a conforming second story addition that will change the basic exterior characteristics of the existing residence in the required front setback. This is here for comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requesting zoning modification. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. I'm Jason Grant with J. Grant Design Studio. So we are on San Miguel as San Miguel kind of wraps back around on its way back up to Cliff Drive, and it's this little pie-shaped lot that's right here. Here's some existing photos and the existing elevations of the little house just as it originally was, and it's never been altered since it was originally done. So as seen from the street, our little house is here. We have a 2-story on either side of us, and we're kind of like the little house that sits in the middle. Another view, kind of, you see the side of the house and as it kind of wraps around. So this house already has a little front porch that sits right here. That front porch sits in the front yard setback, and then the corner of the existing house sits in the front yard setback. I'll show you that on the site plan. So that's where the mod's coming in, one of those legal non-conforming situations, and now we're altering the house. So on the site plan, there's the post sitting in that front yard setback, and then the corner of the house right here. And so we're adding and I'll show you in the elevations, we're adding a French door here, and we'd like to upgrade this little kind of a lean-to front porch and make it something that has a better sense of entry. So this is the existing floor plan it is now. The hatch represents where the second story addition is going to go. Just so you can kind of have a sense of where that's at. And of course, that conforms to all required setbacks and whatnot. Down below represents existing floor plan, and then here is our new floor plan. So we'd like to, the posts will remain in the same spot, but we'd like to beef them up and change the roof line of that covered entry, putting in some French doors, redoing just to remodel the kitchen. There's a fireplace being added, and then mainly our upstairs, which is staying just below the 50% of existing because we have only a 1-car garage and don't want to get into that. We have no place to add a 2-car garage in this case. So we're just getting a master suite kind of upstairs and then a small little office space. There's a small little balcony off the front looking down towards the ocean, and then as we're kind of tucked back, the drive kind of wraps down. We're getting a little balcony off the office space as well, which that kind of sits like over the top of the garage right here. And in terms of elevations, this is what we like to do, just make our little seaside cottage. We'll do, kind of a shaker style and have extended sill and high quality windows, of course. This is our fireplace and our doors that we're adding. So we have an outdoor fireplace that will be covered with like a Santa Barbara sandstone. Here's that new entryway, once again posted in the same spot, but just kind of dressing it up a little bit so it's a little bit more charming. Just kind of the outline of the houses on either side of us. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to questions of the board, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions.
I have
Yes.
just one question. On the south elevation above the garage, I'm trying to understand, how come this one piece to the far left goes up higher than the guardrail?
Yeah, that was actually, and that's, I'm glad you pointed that out. That was fixed on this elevation. It actually is going to sit below the guardrail, won't be
Okay.
higher than. But what we're going to do is carry that roof element up so there's a solid wall on that side, just to kind of provide privacy to our most immediate neighbor. Yeah, right here, exactly. It was carried up a little bit further on that one.
Here's this, if you see it over here.
Yeah, you see that rake?
That's where.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to carry that wall up at that location, let the railing kind of die on it.
Oh.
Other questions? Do you have any sense yet of exterior light fixtures locations?
I think on my elevations, let me, before I speak too quickly.
I saw one here.
I see one here, and I believe there's two there, and if anything here, we'd probably have something hanging or up high in there, but that hasn't been selected as of yet.
And are you going to put anything on these? You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess per code, I'll have to have something on here. But I guess we don't know if it'll just be a downlight or something that's on the balcony itself. I don't know if we necessarily need an up high light.
Nice to have one right there.
Yeah, that I agree with. Just with the upstairs, I'm not sure we need them up high. Maybe something that's down low.
And then in terms of the site plan, are you going to? I see a little white picket fence on a stone wall, wherever the photograph went to.
Yeah, it's just right.
Is that going to be retained?
That is going to be maintained, and actually one thing this is only for comments only, but when I bring this back, we'll bring, because we need to address this foliage is too tall. It doesn't meet the requirements. So we'll come back with a landscape for this little front portion. But what we'd like to do, it's not represented here, is actually carry this walk out to here, maintain that little stone wall, but carry a walk out and a couple nice steps and transition that nice stone wall kind of back in and a better sense of entry. Because right now you have to walk up the drive and over. It's very awkward, and so that you'll see that represented when I come back.
So that'll be coming back to us.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Have you talked to the neighbors about this?
We really haven't had much conversation with the neighbors, only because we were going through the mod hearing, or the mod process first, and there just hasn't been a lot of interest. So that may come about. It just hasn't as of yet.
I mean, it helps that both of them have two-story.
Yeah, and they're both sitting quite a bit of height. We're kind of like the little house that's left, amongst the. And there's quite a bit of foliage between the houses, and so as you're on each lot, they feel pretty separate.
So this is an existing hedge?
Correct.
Which is 8 feet, 10 feet?
It's got to be 10 feet, yeah.
Okay.
It's
and
above.
And then this balcony is, right?
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So based on our typical guidelines,
Right.
it wants to be 15 feet away from the property line.
Right.
Okay.
How many feet is it?
It's like seven feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's important to keep in mind with that, understand that's the guideline, but if you kind of look at where that will be, so our garage sits further back over here. You can see our immediate neighbor has their windows here, then there's a fireplace, and then there's no windows. So our little balcony, and I'm sorry you can't see it in this, is set way, way back down the drive.
And this balcony on that house, is that within 15 feet of the property line?
Oh yeah. That's
It's
that's
right on the
It's
6 foot
right
line.
there.
So that balcony,
They look on us no matter how much we try
so their balcony is already
right
up to
They're right up against it and 2 stories straight up. So we're just kind of a tucked-in little balcony sitting back here. And once again, that's really more for just air in the room. None of these. This is a teeny little house. Everything's small.
And what's happening? I don't recall. Is there a balcony?
Yeah, this is a balcony that you're seeing right here. They did a nice job. It's kind of tucked in, and then they made it as kind of a solid wall.
But it's not within the 15 feet.
It may not. That property kind of skews off.
It skews out.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the garage is detached?
It's attached. It is
Attached,
yeah.
but it's way in the back?
Yes, it sits in the back. So
it's not, because in your drawing, it looks like it's really visible.
well, so here,
look at how far back.
So there's the garage, and here's that house to kind of give you a sense, so you kind of see how far back we are.
But if you look at, let's look at the front drawing.
Yeah, right here, right.
If you go
See,
out there,
it's right there.
Right, but you have to look at this in 3 dimensions.
If you look at the side view here, This shows you where the garage is in comparison to, where
It's
the rest
15, it's almost 16 feet back.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm really familiar with the street, but I just needed to get clear on that.
And the
It's hard to
garage
tell that
from the
Yeah.
property
Yeah, it
line
is.
is back
Right.
44 feet.
Right.
It's way back.
It's really tucked back there.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. This is here for comments only because it still has to go to the staff hearing officer and needs an environmental assessment.
Yeah, so I need you to make comments on the
Comments
the
on
mod.
the two, there's two mods.
Yeah.
Is it two mods?
Actually,
Is it one mod?
I think it's one.
Yeah, it's
So
technically one
it's
mod.
technically
Thank you.
one modification because this little porch sits a few feet into the setback and the corner of the house, little corner right there sits in the few feet of the setback.
Right.
So if you're to discuss, make comments, you want to be able to indicate to the staff hearing officer whether or not those projections into the setback are acceptable.
I will make a.
Wait, could I
Oh,
bring
sorry.
something up before
Sure.
you make your motion, just so that we could talk about it and see what we think? Is about, so the deck. So a lot of those houses in that neighborhood were built before we were here, and they're big, and they're close to the lot line, and they look in each other's windows, and so here we are now trying to make some changes in the new direction of the neighborhood. And so I'm just wondering how the board feels about where the deck is. It's about 10 by 10 by my calculations. Is there any way that if it were a little bit smaller or pushed in a little bit, it could be, not setting a precedent in the neighborhood for the proximity?
It's actually 60 square feet.
60 square
He's got it right
feet.
on the drawing.
Well, it says 90.
It says 60 square
I'm
feet.
looking
If
at
you
the
look
wrong one.
Look at the floor plan.
That's the combination of both balconies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a small one in the front.
The one you're talking about is 60 square feet.
60, okay.
It's a pretty small little thing.
That's already
no
pretty
margarita
small.
parties or,
New sunbathing.
Comment.
a couple of chairs and some,
Bernie, I
some
think
green tea in the morning. That's
in
all you get
response
out of
to
it.
your query, this house here has a party deck on it. That house over there has something, you can't hardly tell, it's done very nicely, but it
Yeah.
probably has a party deck. I think what they're requesting here, I would see as an exception to our 15-foot criteria, given the nature of its setting and given the nature of its relationship to the two larger houses on either side. And because these have already been done, the likelihood, at least in our lifetime, of these being added to further is probably not there. So we're dealing with some fixed conditions here that probably for a very long time will set the architectural size, scale, and bulk of at least this piece of the neighborhood on this corner. So I can't, I really don't see any problem with allowing that small balcony there in this particular case. Other comments?
I think it's delightful.
All right, then go forward with
I like
your
it.
motion.
So is someone ready to make a motion?
All right. I will make a motion.
Now, this is here for comments
Right.
only,
But,
Okay.
but you need to comment on the setback
Right.
modification.
So I move to continue the project to the full board indefinitely with the following comment.
I believe you want to continue to staff hearing officer. I believe you want to continue it to the staff hearing officer for the modifications.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Continued indefinitely back to this board, but encouragement to proceed to the staff
Right.
hearing officer.
Right. We appreciate the quality of the architecture and what the materials appear to be proposed at, and the consistency and appearance of the neighborhood. But it also, the following comments are that we feel the modification to be acceptable, the front porch modification, and that that's about it.
Does the maker of the motion want to make a comment about the deck, the 60
Oh,
square foot deck?
Okay, the 60 square foot deck is acceptable, considering that the positioning of where it's located and the relationship to the neighbor, and also the other deck, right?
Okay. That's the motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, the chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, we'll see you back after you go to the staff hearing officer.
Another nice.
I'll leave you that one.
Another nice project.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Who made the second?
Good project.
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Yeah, that's right. Go.
Did one in San Roque last week. It was
Okay, we're at 5:15. Our next item is due at 6:10. We now recess for dinner.
Not up the hill, but
to the west. Well, yeah, they own the lots to the west of this subject lot. They might not own the one directly to the west. I think it's the one after that, the ones after that.
All right, let's get started. The chair is going to reopen the Single-Family Design Board meeting of Monday, November 2nd. We're at item number 6, 611 Holmquist Road. This project is here for project design approval and final approval. Project must comply with the Staff Hearing Officer Resolution number 056-15. The project was last reviewed on July 13, 2015. Mr. Miller, do we have comments from our last review? If you could read those, please.
Yes. Number one, the board finds that the proposed materials are an improvement to the existing property. Number two, provide samples of the standing seam PVC roof. Number three, provide a partial landscape plan to soften the south side of the deck and the lower south side of the house, and provide a way to update and balance the north side planter area. Number four, provide an exterior lighting plan. Number five, the three modifications are acceptable in relation to the size, bulk, and scale of the building. Action taken by Pierce, seconded by Miller. The motion was carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. If you could introduce yourself, please.
My name's Jim Davis, architect for the project.
Okay, and if you could share with us how you address those comments.
Sure. I did not bring a PVC metal roofing sample or PVC sample for the roofing just because the owners decided to go with a standing seam, and we're going to end up using a weathered copper look. So I did bring this for you guys to take a look at. If you wanted to see that at a closer proximity, you can. We also have our full color board too for your review as well. We can go over that in a little bit later, though, after we go over your comments. Provide a partial landscape plan. On the front, this is really the only area that's getting new planting. Everything else is staying exactly the same. So we did not provide a full landscape plan or a landscape plan for this area just because the existing area wasn't going to be updated from what is existing. And there is a photo of that area. And then down on the south side, below this existing deck here, I did want to show you guys that, and it's not visible from the street, from probably where you guys have been looking at this house, but there is existing plantings there, and with the drought, they haven't been watered a whole lot. So once we get through the drought and everything, the owner is planning to increase the screening from down below, but I think we were looking for a little bit more direction on how you guys wanted us to approach that as well. The next item is the exterior lighting plan. On the color board, these are the exterior lights that we're planning to use. And the lighting legend did not show up on our floor plan, so I did bring these for reference as well. And so these are just showing the standard locations near exterior doors. Actually, this is a recess can at the entry, and then everywhere else we're just going with minimal lighting, which would be these lights here.
Okay.
And that is that for the comments.
Right? Anything else to present?
If you have any questions about the exterior colors, go ahead and let me know.
Okay. All right, before we go to questions, the chair will open it up for public comment. Mr. Ing, do we have any letters or any?
No, we do not.
Okay. Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions? I'm wondering if we could look at the photographs of the existing on the south side, which is where we had the landscape issue, which was down here. And I think so.
Is it easier to look at here?
Well, either there, but the question became. My memory says we really wanted some landscaping in
this
here,
area.
in this here, this area here. We wanted that softened. That's why it says provide a partial landscape plan to soften the south side of the deck and the lower south side of the house.
That area is all really getting covered by that deck. So in terms of landscaping, I'm not sure.
Well, I think what we were really looking at, the fact is you can see this house as you look up, is it Coda Street? I think
Look
it's
up Coda Street, yes.
Yeah, you can see it straight up. That's what we were talking about, just softening the underside of where that deck is going to be. And that's what we were looking for. So that's why that comment is in here.
What is this picture right now? Is that just what it's, is that?
Existing deck.
That's what's there now.
Existing. So that's existing.
Right.
We are
what you're
extending that
doing,
further to
you're
the
making
east.
it bigger.
So let's go to the.
See, this is the existing portion here.
So they're
We're
bringing that
extending
over.
it over here.
Okay. And basically what we wanted something here to soften this whole edge, even though the rest of this is not planted, basically looks like.
It's not.
It looks like that, which isn't going to get planted. But what we wanted was some softening of this edge right here. That's what we were looking for.
And on the site plan, again, what you're saying, is it this area below the deck or right in
It's
front?
right here.
So in terms of that photo I provided, then it's right where those existing plantings are.
Right there. That's what we were looking for. That's why that comment is in here. Okay, other questions?
No.
Okay.
What is it's a revised description. What changed from, I don't really remember this.
I don't think there's any, this is not revised. You're reading the wrong one. Read.
Oh, I'm reading no wonder I don't understand.
Read it. You got to read item 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me read item 6.
Okay. So we've seen this project a couple of times. It's here for project design
I'm looking
approval
at
and
the
final
wrong
approval is
thing, that's
requested.
why. Oh, but it does say revised. It does say it's a revised description.
I don't think any.
Where
Yeah,
are you
for
reading
number
revised?
6.
It was reviewed.
It was revised when it brought to us last time, not this time.
I believe there are some changes to particular square footages from when it originally came to the board.
Right. And then it got changed. Okay.
Okay.
Other questions? Comments?
Did we get a cheat
I don't remember this.
Yes, he had it here a second ago. Want to see it?
Did it get buried? Okay, there it is.
Okay.
Oh.
And I'll put it in plans as well.
This is when it first came, and now it came back.
Okay.
Oh, well, let me
So,
send
other
this to
comments?
Fred, I
What's
just
that?
want to bring this to your attention that David just showed me. So this was the original.
Right.
So it got bigger is what happened.
Right, but we saw that the last time.
So that's what you already remember.
We've already
Okay.
done that, so we've been there.
59% FAR, so we're not.
Right, yeah, it's not a big issue. The my comment would go to two things. One is we had asked the applicant to come back with some little bit of landscaping on that south side, and they didn't do that. So the question comes in my mind, if we want to give this project design approval, we may be able to do that, in my view, but couldn't give it final approval until we saw a landscape plan that we've asked for, and it didn't come. Now, we could ask that the landscape plan be provided for a review at consent calendar rather than having it come back to full board, but again, that may be something people want to think about. The other issue in my mind is the standing seam roof. As you recall, we've really had a dilemma with standing seam roofs on the Riviera. They were going to be looking at a standing seam PV roof, which hasn't happened. They've come back with a standing seam metal roof. However, having said that, in my own mind, given the shape of this roof and the fact that it's almost virtually flat and that it doesn't slope towards the city but rather towards the street, I think the issue I've always had with standing seam roofs on the Riviera is the fact that we would see them across the city, and they do have a tendency, regardless if they say they don't shine.
They do shine.
They do shine. But I think in this case, I could kind of buy into a standing seam roof because of the nature of how the roof slopes away from the city and back towards the street. And then given what's above it, these houses up here really aren't going to see it, given having been out on that street a couple of times. I don't have a big problem with that, but it would be, in my view, a big exception in my mind, because I wouldn't want to set a precedence by approving a standing seam roof on the Riviera just because somebody else may come along and want one.
Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes.
to add to that, because I was wondering about that also, because on page 5D of our guideline book, we have to make for the Riviera, and especially that neighborhood of the Riviera, it's a very high-end area, and we have to be able to make the findings that this material would be consistent, compatible, and have quality architecture and materials. And I'm not sure I can make the findings for that material in that neighborhood.
Material. What do you?
The roof material.
Standing seam roof, metal roof.
The only comment I could say about that, Bernie, is the fact that the house already exists, and preferably it would be two-piece mission tile. But I don't think that's too consistent with the style of architecture.
Well, and it's not allowed under the code. The slope is too low. You can't have it.
I know, it's everything. Yeah. I was saying
What was the roof that we had suggested that we didn't get back?
There wasn't one that
There
you
wasn't
suggested.
one.
It was pretty bad. I could support the standing metal seam. I think I think it's appropriate for this style of architecture.
Other comments?
And the deck railing, did we see what that was?
That's on the.
Yeah.
It's in our details, and it's also on the drawings. It's going to be a cable railing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I
Standard
think
cable railing.
that's going to look good with that house. It's just that the house probably.
We wouldn't design it like this if we had it from ground up.
When was this house built?
It was 40s, 50s, somewhere.
No.
50s wouldn't have been
50s?
the 40s, probably the 50s.
Well, so
House was
from,
built. No, it couldn't have been. All those properties were empty in the 70s.
Were they?
Yeah, this house was built in
It's
the
eluding
70s.
me. I don't
It
recall
probably
exactly
was
when
built
it was.
before somehow it got past any kind of design reviews.
Yeah, there was no design.
Yeah.
let's hear from our landscapers. What do you think, given the drought and everything, and what he said, when the drought's over? But what do you think about that?
Now's the time, you can plant and we'll get the rains and everything like that. I mean, I don't think there's a problem. We're not asking for tons of landscape down there, just.
And I was asking for more guidance
Right.
too, because we don't have a landscape architect either, too. So I was just asking for some additional guidance.
And now you have it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any problem with planting.
Okay. Other comments?
But maybe I misunderstood because I thought you said you weren't planning on doing any additional planting.
That was in the front.
We were requesting the
It in the back.
planting to be in
We
the
were
back
down
to
here on this
surround
backside.
the naked.
And so what do you think about the back?
Well, what
When
I
he
had...
comes back with the landscape plan, we'll be able to assess.
Yeah. So what I had suggested was whoever makes the motion may want to consider a motion that gives this project design approval with a motion that would allow final design approval to go to consent calendar for review of a landscape plan on the south portion, wherever our comment was, the lower south side of the house and the north side planter area, or south side of the deck and the lower side, south side of the house. So that's what we haven't seen. In my view, that could be looked at consent calendar or by our landscape reviewer. That would be a suggestion.
I will venture a motion.
Okay.
The board would like to give this project project design approval with the instruction to come back to consent for final with the following comments and items. We'd like to see landscaping on the south side of the deck as requested. The landscaping in the front's fine. We're okay with that, the existing. The board finds the new proposed roofing material acceptable, as well as the proposed exterior lighting. And I think do I need to do NPO?
Yes, you need to do
Okay,
NPO if you're giving
yes.
a project design approval.
Yes. We find that the project has consistency in appearance, compatibility with the neighborhood, uses quality architecture and materials, and is not obstructing views in any way. That is my motion.
Okay. That's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, so we'll see you at consent calendar.
There's a 10-day appeal period.
And there is a 10-day appeal period to this act. November 2nd, Single Family Design Board. We're on item number 7, 113 La Plata. This is here for project design approval. The project was last reviewed on September 8, 2015. Mr. Miller, do we have some action to read?
Do you have any minutes?
Oh, that was my fault. I didn't. I just got it reviewed. I can read.
Okay, if you could read that, please.
I do want to note that this is a revised project. The previous project went to staff hearing officer.
Okay.
And that modification was denied, and so the applicant has revised the project.
Okay.
With the conforming two-car garage.
Okay.
So it says one car, so we just change. Is that the only change on our description?
Yeah, that was a typo.
So our comments from last time were?
Yes, it was continued indefinitely to staff hearing officer to return to full board of comments. The board appreciates the architectural style of the project. Study lowering the plate heights on the first floor to 9 feet and on the second floor to 8 feet. Study an alternate material for the railing, the roof deck over the garage, and the standing metal seam roof. The board supports the modification as aesthetically appropriate and consistent with design guidelines. Okay. And it was motioned by Miller, seconded by Motisha, carried by 4.
Was the FAR still 91% at that time?
FAR
It's 85.
was 85%.
Okay.
So
thank
it
you.
changed.
It got up, went up.
It got bigger.
Yep.
Guess why?
We're at 91%,
garage?
okay?
Yes. So
Okay, so if you could share with us what happened here.
exactly. Appreciated your support for the mod. That was an 85% FAR solution, and that's why we requested the parking in the side yard setback. And the modification hearing officer did not see that there was any particular reason, since we were created an empty lot by eliminating the existing dwelling, to have such a dispensation. But what it did do is it caused us to have to add another 200 square feet to the house, basically. So that being said, I also took wherever I could and reduced square footage. So we didn't add the complete 200 square feet back, and we here and there just squish things in. So you can see from the FAR study that you have in front of you, our project is one of 7 two-story homes in the sampling. So in 20 houses, there are 7 two-story homes, which is a good number. It's the next to smallest of all of those houses, so I think that's an important factor. The only one that's smaller, actually, is the house next door. So we have 2 of the smallest two-story homes in the surrounding neighborhood. We're number 2. The other one was number 1, is the smallest. And the only reason why we have a larger FAR in the sample is because our lot is so small. So that's what you can take away from the FAR study. Those are the very, very clear indications that we have a 2-story house, but we have the smallest one, with the exception of the house next door in the neighborhood. So that being said, we took really the same point of view, which was to erode the house, both in the front yard setback, side yards, rear yards, so that in most cases we've got some takeaway from filling out the home to the setbacks. And especially on the second floor, everything is scrunched in and brought into the center, so that really in only one particular instance, which is in the rear yard facing the rear, are there 2-story faces of structures. So I think that is quite clearly seen. In the elevations, the front elevation, the top story is much narrower than the base of the lower story, and that configuration is seen on all the sides. So basically, the house steps back to honor the street and its neighbors on either side. So the main things that the board was concerned about last time was the overall height, which we reduced by lowering the plate height in the lower floor from 10 feet to 9.6. It was concerned with the verticality of the board and bat siding, which was felt to increase the perception of the height. So we've gone from a board and bat siding to shingle siding. We've also eliminated the standing seam roof, which some folks opined that was inconsistent with the neighborhood. So we've got a comp shingle roof, which is traditional in the area, as are the shingles. We addressed the concerns about the glass railing by modifying it. It's now a cable rail with a wood top, and wood posts. And then we've got actually some other sketches here, which we'd like your opinion about. There was discussion about what window and door head heights were most appropriate. And so we studied both the 8 feet and 7.6, and we looked at those, and so we've got a secondary set of drawings that has the 7.6 plate height, which it seems to me works out a little bit better as far as bringing the scale of the house down. And so that's what these secondary color elevations are showing, is the 7.6 doors and windows. And that is what these are. So the requirement for the over 85% FAR was to provide some 3D studies, which are towards the rear of the set, but these are some other ones. And it was just a study that I was showing the clients about the simple treatment of the entry with the post and beam and the exposed framing, creating some interest while not being overly dramatic. Did lend the entry a nice feel, and the rest, I think, is up for discussion. I think that we've responded appropriately to the concerns of the board.
Can we look at the floor plans for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Which are? Okay.
So these are all modest-sized rooms. The bedrooms are, 12 by 12. I think the master bedroom might be 13 by 14 at the most.
13 by 13.
Yeah. So these are not large rooms. The deck is really modest and just taking into consideration the size of the master bedroom. The kitchen is not large. So really, this is a modest house. It's on a very small lot, which is the main constraint. But only the front area, the living room, is the only one that meets the front yard setback, and the rest are full back. And the rear yard has ample outside space. And we've got a nice trash area in the back, keeping the trash out of view. We've got existing screening on all sides, so that will remain. As I said before in our original presentation, it was our desire to maintain the neighbors' views, which we did by stepping the garage back. And the next door house views are all on the other side, so there was no conflict in there.
Okay. Anything else you want to present?
Landscape?
Landscape.
So anyway, we have a few steps up to a very modest front terrace here. Not that much going on here, but some nice drought-tolerant plantings. And we planned for the parkway as well as the front, very low, succulent, very water-conserving. We have permeable paving through this area all the way to the trash, stepping stones coming around the corner to a concrete patio. We have a meadow instead of a lawn. We want that to be, we're going to try blue grama, a blue grama meadow. We have a very small, modest orchard with small fruit trees. And some roses back here, and just a little bit higher screening than there's maybe a low boxwood there now, but we have a drought-tolerant screen that should be about 6 foot height here, stepping stones around there, around the side. And again, the trash is hidden from view. We have a Parkinsonia tree right on the corner. That's just to soften views of this house. We don't feel like this will block views at all. It's really I think it'll be a beautiful addition. And again, a low succulent ground cover in front with some accent shrubs. Any questions? Oh, we also have a gas-fired fireplace in the back. And we have concept pictures of all those elements, and we have plant pictures as well. This is the plant palette on the second page.
Okay.
Turn it to elevations.
Elevations. Okay, before we go to questions from the board, Ms. Ring, do we have any correspondence on this project?
No, we do not.
Anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Seeing none, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Questions?
Yes, what are the plate heights of the first and second floors right now? What do you have them as?
9.6.
For the first floor?
9.
9 for the second, okay.
Other questions?
I have a question. Is
Yes.
that different than what you had before?
Yeah, we lowered it from 10 to 9.6.
The first floor?
The first floor. Mm-hmm.
From 10 to 9.6, and the second floor is still the
Still
same?
9. Mm-hmm.
It's 9.
Other questions? I have a question on the fireplace in the back. How high, more or less, is it going to be?
This is roughly going to be 6 feet.
Okay.
in
So
height.
your required open area is that this, or how did you?
It's all in there, yeah. There's probably...
So is the 1250,
it's...
doesn't include that element?
Correct.
Okay. Because I was going to ask David if you're allowed to have that in the 1250, but
No,
1250
we have
goes
plenty of open space. This is basically 20 by 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you say existing fence to be modified. What are you going to do?
We're just going to put a cap on it and restain it, basically.
Okay.
They want to keep that. It's a wood fence
now.
with a dog ear.
Okay.
And what we thought we would do is put a cap on it and put some trim on it and really restain it. Maybe replace some of the posts that are kind
Is
of
that on the
leaning.
drawings yet, or is that still to be done?
I don't have a detail. It's just a note right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I will have a detail, but it's a minor. We're not going to increase the height or really change the material except for replace some old posts.
Okay. And then getting back to this issue of the deck, because we ran into it a couple of times tonight. The deck in relationship to the property line. Here's this measure. This is a quarter inch. Okay, so we're at the 14 foot mark instead of the 15-foot mark. And then what was the difference between this drawing and this one?
The only thing is the window height.
So these are at 7,
7.6, and these are at 8.
and you're suggesting you'd rather do that than this?
I'm open, but it seemed to me like the 7.6 looked a little bit better. And
does the garage?
same, yeah, so there'd be consistent 7.6 head height.
Okay. And that only happens here, right?
No, actually throughout and upstairs the same. The windows are at 7.6, so it would be a consistent 7.6 head height.
Because these look, just visually, they look the same. Okay. Right?
It's a subtlety.
Other questions?
Plate heights, again, plate heights for top, give me the plate heights at the top and the bottom. Plate heights.
9.0 in the top and 9.6 in the bottom.
9.6, and then you have your header heights for your doors and windows, the top and bottom.
They would be both 7.6.
Both 7.6. Okay. 9.0 and 9.6.
And have you looked at a shingle type yet? Other than it is an asphalt shingle? Have you looked at a style?
It would be one of your heavily textured,
Okay.
Dimensional type.
Style. Okay. Other questions? Okay, let's go to comments. The applicant's requesting project design approval.
I think it's improved greatly over the difference between the exterior siding you had before. It gave it more. Of course, the color does it wonders in presentation. I think it hides a little. I had never got into computers, so I use my pencil in my hand. I think the computer hides what it may look like rather than doing it by hand. But it's a great improvement over what you had what you presented last time.
Also see the shingles in the 3D.
All right, yeah, okay. And what's the glass? Is this glass at the top?
Yes, glass only at the top.
Only at the top, okay.
Other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Couple things. I know you presented a couple examples of other two-story homes in the neighborhood. However, I do know that those are highly controversial houses. In fact, one of the houses in that photograph, I don't know, where is it? The streetscape?
Yeah, there are 7 two-story homes.
Yeah,
and
that
2
one
on our
actually was
block.
the one that triggered our design board.
Right.
So I guess my point being, I can't support this project. I think your plate heights are way too high. I will support a 9-foot plate for the first floor, 8-foot plate on the second floor. Your header heights for your windows, I'll support a 7-foot height header height for the first floor, 6'8" on the top. I can't go beyond that based on the character and context of this neighborhood. I think your house is just too big and bulky for the style of this neighborhood. I think you need to really shoot for that 85%. I think that's the only thing I can support with this house based on this context of the neighborhood. This house was, in fact, I know this house never went before the review board. I don't think this one did either. They got through the cracks.
You want to put that on the
Yeah.
on the TV,
And so I
please?
feel it's just, I fall over. Now these 2 homes here, this one in particular, I know was a very controversial home. So I just feel that in this one too, like I said, I can't support the house. I love the style of your architecture, and I think the asphalt shingles is appropriate, but the plate heights are too high. So that's my only comment.
Okay. Other comments?
This is across the street from this?
Yes.
Yeah, let's look in the other way. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at it, it just feels so tall. There's something that doesn't feel right about, and it's probably the plate heights and the headers as well. It just doesn't feel right.
Okay.
I would support it at an 85 or less FAR. I'm appreciating the architecture direction you've taken, but I agree that it needs to come down in size and bulk a little bit.
So you're indicating right now we're being told it's 91%. You would favor something closer to 85. Is that what you're saying?
I would.
Okay. And is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm going to just read my notes real quickly. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your earlier attempt, and we tried to, find something that was going to be compatible, and that didn't work. But since that didn't work, this isn't going to work either. This is, in my opinion, I agree with what everybody said. This sort of project needs to be redesigned on a smaller scale. It is a precedent-setting project because many small lots in this precious coastal marine terrace area are going to be bulldozed and replaced, just like this one. The 2-story approach is acceptable, but not at this scale or size.
Okay. Other comments? Yes.
Landscape plan looks great.
Joe, comments? Yeah, I think that I myself am not particularly concerned about the 91% size, but I hear what my colleagues are saying. But I am concerned about the plate heights. I think the plate heights have to come down. That would put it into a much more comfortable level. I think all the other things, the roofing material, the siding, the window fenestrations are all perfectly acceptable. The architecture's perfectly acceptable, but I think the plate heights have to come down. And it appears that there's going to be a majority of this board that's not going to be in favor of a 91% FAR, and we understand that you had to deal with adding a two-car garage, but my sense is you don't have support for that. So I think that's kind of where we are. So, having said that, the chair would look for some sort of motion to give direction to the applicant. The applicant would like to have concept design review. You could do that with comments. You could not do that with comments. Depends how you want to formulate your motion. Who's ready to make a motion?
Anybody?
We would respectfully request concept design approval. We can certainly follow directions like most folks.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'll make a motion, but it's not going to be that. I move to continue the project for 2 weeks for the applicant to come back to the full board with the following comments. First of all, the board can support the overall style of the property. The board would like to see a reduction in the size back to 85%, and the board would like to see a reduction in the plate heights as per previous comments. The board appreciates the applicant's willingness to look at other homes in the neighborhood and design one that meets the compatibility guidelines.
Okay. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
That's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Okay. To the maker of the motion, could you be a little more explicit on the plate heights?
Could you help me add some data in there?
We'd accept a 9-foot plate height for the first floor and an 8-foot plate height for the second floor.
Well, maybe not accept, but we would consider. We would like to consider lowered plate heights.
To 9 feet on the first floor and 8 feet on the second floor.
Okay. So is that your corrected motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything else that anybody wants to
wait a minute.
add?
Let's take care of that one item. Is that acceptable to the second?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you have anything else?
Could you read back that motion? It was...
The board supports the overall style of architecture. The board requests a reduction in size down to 85% FAR. Reduce the plate heights, 9 feet on the first floor and 8 feet on the second floor. And the board appreciates the applicant's research to design the project compatible to the neighborhood.
I have a comment I'd like to make regarding the, should we say 85, or we'd like to see the designer design the house so it's closer to the 85% mark as opposed to specifically being 85?
The thing is, it's a really small lot, so,
So you want to
it's going to
recommend-
look like a big house if it's a big house.
Yeah.
So can we...
You're the maker of the motion.
I'm the maker of the motion. I'd like to be pretty firm about that.
Okay, so right now the motion says 85%.
Okay.
Okay. That's still acceptable to the second?
Okay.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Okay.
Just to comment on that motion. It was our intention to be 85%, but the planning division disallowed that. So we've had to make sacrifices, and like I said, I already have taken every single room that I could and squished it. So I would appreciate a little bit of leeway. I can work it down. I mean, I understand working it down. It's kind of like there's only certain things that you can actually do once you set up a party that has every roof connected to it and every hip, you just don't start chopping things up.
Let's see what Fred can come up with here.
One thing that I noticed that there were not dimensions on here, so it made it hard for me to kind of...
The rooms are all very modest. These are
I was measuring it.
Right.
The dimensions would be good.
Let's take that out of the way. I just want to get back to your floor plan.
Hard to figure out.
So I think, Tom, one of the things that would be helpful to the board members, even though I can scale it and we kind of see, just, putting it 12 by 12 or 13 by whatever.
Well, I assume that most people here are very versed in scale.
Well, I understand that,
And
but
these are
that's,
small rooms.
I know, I understand that, but I'm just suggesting
They're small bathrooms.
that would be helpful.
I've gone over this plan quite a few times, and there's no slop in it.
I think that you could look at 3 feet, 3 feet, 3.5 feet, 2 feet, 6 feet. I think there's some opportunity to shape this a little bit smaller. I would certainly be in favor of getting closer to the 85%, down below 91%. I'm not fixated on the 85%, but I don't know.
I'm not either.
I'm not what my
I tend to
colleagues
agree
are.
with that.
So-
I think you need
so
to have some.
Let me suggest something here. There is a motion on the floor that has it fixed at 85%. Now, there may be some of you that will agree with that and will vote in favor of the motion. If the motion fails because there are a majority of us who do not agree to the 85%, then a new motion can be made. Okay? So that's kind of how it works. Rather than trying to sit here and keep tweaking the motion, you can either vote in favor of the motion as it stands or defeat the motion, and then we'd have to go to a second motion. Okay? So you see how that works? So I, for one, in my comments, would be more amenable for a little more reduction from the 91%, get it closer to 85, but I'm not set on 85%. If we can come down, and I can see a couple places where that could happen, then that would show that there's been an effort made to deal with it. I'm more concerned about the plate height issue. So
I just like
that's my
to,
view. So,
go ahead.
Anyway, that's how we can handle the motion that's currently on the floor.
And I think that the plate height changes will be significant and will, make the house seem immediately smaller. The places where I can tweak, I have, but we can still squeeze a little bit more blood out of the onion, and but not too much. So I'm happy to try. I'm just telling you, I've been around that block several times already, and there is a little bit more, but the project is going to squeal when I squish it. So I think the heights will do what you want.
Well, I would just like to, I'm thinking, I understand. I do understand, and I might be a little bit flexible, but I do want to remind the board that this is what's happening all over the mesa, that houses are getting knocked down right and left, everywhere you look. This is a 55, 53 square foot lot. It's a small lot. It had a 1,300 square foot one-story house. That's what the neighborhood was. Now it's going to have a two-story house, 2, 3, 3, 3. So it's, think about it for a minute and think about if you allow all these little marine terrace houses to get bulldozed, annihilated, then what are we going to have? We're going to have these big blocks like Santa Monica. So that's why if we don't curtail the size, we're going to have mansionization. That's exactly what we're trying not to do.
And the point of the whole design is to have the upper story well in from all of the walls of the lower story. And that's exactly what is the point of this design, is to respect that. And it's not a form of mansionization in any sense or form. It's in terms of all of the other two-story houses, it's the smallest one, except for this other one that was done in the 50s.
Lot.
I think the door heights are excessive. I think you could bring it down and still get the same look of the house.
Right. Well,
the 7/6 doors are.
I think that we've kind of chatted about this.
Okay, so
now we have a motion on the floor. The motion on the floor requires an exact reduction to 85%. You can either vote in favor of it or against it. If the motion fails, then we look to a second motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm willing to amend the motion to say 85% or close to it. How about that? Give a little bit of...
Okay,
All right.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. So that's the corrected motion? Did you get that?
And it gives a little bit of leeway to...
Okay. That's the motion, the corrected motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. So does that give you good direction? Okay. We'll see you back here. All right. Do we have... We don't have an item number 8. So that concludes Monday, November 2nd, 2015, Single Family Design Board. Okay.